Would you agree that our relationships with our partners, whether it be within a marriage or perhaps a significant intimate partner in any way, shape, or form, tends to mirror our inner world and influence our health, happiness, and personal growth? I'm not a parent yet, so please note that this episode is mostly based on couples who don't have children. Welcome back to AOL, the Anatomy of Life podcast, a podcast that has a unique perspective on health, resilience, and living with intention, and on a mission to whole person health. Unlike other health and wellness podcasts, this one brings a fresh approach that challenges mainstream ideas and dives into the many dimensions of life. The intention is to help you improve, grow, transform, and manifest in all areas of your life. And AOL's focus for season 2 is on relationships, both in the way that we as a society talk about relationships and then also beyond the traditional sense of the word. And this is where we include interactions with lifestyle, self-care, maybe even our relationship to medicine, supplements, quick fixes, and such. And also then the relationship with stress, food, perhaps our music, education, and creativity, and even our finances, but also our relationship to our work colleagues and bosses, our friends and family, our partners, and ourselves. And for this particular episode, we look at the mirror of partnership, navigating love and connection. And what are the foundations of such a relationship? Perhaps, as I tend to always define things to better understand them, defining the word partnership could set the tone for what the foundations would be. And a partnership is a connection. It's a connection that's based on mutual trust, mutual love, and a shared purpose. When I met my husband, we quickly formed a bond over our mutual love for music and travel. And I remember all the thoughts I had leading up to the date. It was quite a funny story, really, because I remember thinking, I hope this guy has good taste in music, because if he was blasting stuff that wasn't my taste, that would be the last I saw him. To my surprise, he was dropping beat after beat. Deep house, rap, old school R&B, and he made me instantly forget that I was in a random dude's car on my way to a place I hardly frequented because I was not from his neck of the woods. I was from the other side of the tracks, so to speak. We tend to call it the south of Johannesburg, and he was from the north. And what I've come to realize is that the south, wherever you are in the world, tend to be more on the lower end of the scale, and the northern places tend to be more upper class. Well, this is according to societal standards. This is not necessarily true in reality. Anyway, I kind of instantly knew that this guy was legit, just based off music taste. But what did I know at that point? I mean, he could have been a serial killer with great music taste. Spoiler alert, we now know he is not a serial killer. I remember loading airtime onto my phone. Now, if you're not sure what that is, it's loading data onto your smartphone so you can make calls and send texts. And while I was doing that, I was bopping my head and singing along. We went on to enjoy not only that first night, but countless memorable nights at music concerts, festivals, and on our balcony with a glass of wine. Me dancing away, singing at the top of my lungs with a messy bun and really tattered slippers, and him all comfy on the garden furniture, sipping his wine, bopping his head, singing with me now and again, but just observing me as I tore up the dance floor in our apartment. I didn't need to be anyone else, just me, enjoying myself, and he totally saw me, he understood me, and reveled in the music with me. This encompassed not only mutual trust, a mutual love, but also a shared sense of purpose. Now, it's not just music that we share a common interest, but we shared a sense of purpose when it came to how we show up as individuals in the world. We've had to wade through the history that both brought to the table. How we grew up, or how we managed stress and conflict, how we navigated each other when it was unbearable to be in the same room. And that was real life. No matter what tried to tear us apart, the common purpose and goal was to always find our way back to each other, sift through the noise and unpack the hard stuff, and share an understanding and a newfound respect for each other. in our humanness, our imperfect selves, and choose to always be there even when it looked so ugly. Now, remember I mentioned I was from the South? Yeah. We lived almost 30 minutes from each other. I know it's not far, by no means a long distance relationship, but for us, it was too far apart. We hated being apart. I would skip out on work just to be with him during the day. He would do the same. We were young and utterly obsessed with each other. To some, it may seem an unhealthy amount, but you know, nothing's really changed. We don't like being apart. We're constantly checking in on each other, and it's been about 17 years now. I grew up in an environment that, as an adult, I'm still healing from. And I experienced things that youngsters should probably not experience, from the death of friends. I had a friend that died at the age of 7 from cancer. We didn't really have the language to understand what was happening to him. So witnessing him go through chemo and then witnessing the death of family, verbal abuse, violence, assault, bullying, neglect, abandonment issues, and such. I experienced a lot of that throughout my teenage and young adult years. I also witnessed my mom and my sister go through the same. So I was in survival mode for the large majority of my childhood and early adulthood. So I always thought that I would marry someone with a similar background, but that was quite the contrary. I married someone from a stable home, a healthy home, a home where a father provided for his family. There was safety in the home. Women were valued and treated with chivalry. My mom was the sole provider for, well, most of my memory. I remember my mom being the one that paid for everything and bought everything and made sure my school fees were paid and made sure I had clothes on my back. She fed me. She made me feel safe. My mom was literally my only parent. And, my mom did everything for us, and she was everything for us. And maybe I might be exaggerating that, but that's what my memory serves me. And when I speak to my family, that's what they remember too. So I didn't know what a healthy male role model looked like, or felt like. I only understood aggression. I understood silent treatment. I can perfect silent treatment. And, we were just used to being told how utterly useless we all were. So if it weren't for my mom and my sister, I wouldn't be here today. I only understood women to be the glue for everything, for being the providers for everything, but also for being told what we could wear, where we could wear it, how we could wear it. There was no makeup, there was no boys, nothing, unless it was approved by the not so emotionally present male in the house. So I did not grow up understanding how to properly be treated as a woman or how to hone in on my feminine energy. So, needless to say, I was quite aggressive. I was very defensive, quite opinionated. I don't think that's changed. I was an unauthorized feminist, so to speak, because no, I'm not a feminist. But I did have a bit of a bone to pick with men. I didn't see a healthy marriage growing up. I didn't learn what that was. I didn't see a partnership. I saw a very lopsided partnership where one partner did everything and was told they did nothing, and then other partner did nothing and portrayed to the outside world that they did everything. So we lived a fake happy life. A lot of people, now that they know me and they know the story, so we were cut off from family members as a form of control. And narcissist was a word I later learned just to describe the person that was meant to represent my father. So, as you can see, my poor husband had his work cut out for him when choosing me. I guess you could say that he saw something in me that was healthy enough to invest in, because I thought I was pretty broken. I thought I was like really just a mess. The way I was shaped would ultimately dictate some of the things that we went through as a couple. And his background and the love and support from my mother and my sister and our friends, and luckily my innate knowing of what was healthy, would be the grounding force to what kept us going, even through the darkest of times, when on any normal situation or in any normal situation would tear a couple and marriage apart. The role of self awareness in building and maintaining a healthy partnership has become such a forefront for me, especially as I navigate my own insecurities, my own pain, and all the skeletons. I can honestly say that my upbringing and generational patterns did influence my initial view on marriage. However, I'm lucky to have some healthy adults within my sphere to mimic healthy relationships. And through my studies, through my curiosity to find out and to delve deep into the human psyche, has helped me with my expectations around marriage. And that my previous views were in fact false, they were skewed, and that they could be changed. The significance of mutual respect, communication, and emotional support is something that both my husband and I have come to learn. We've come to cultivate it and we continue to practice it equally. But we also struggle with it. And so that's why we practice with it. It should be, I think, because we've both never been in this before. And so learning as we go on what works and what doesn't work for us has been quite a journey. But that no matter where I am in my life, I have vowed to try come back to when the going gets tough, and also to utterly thrive and enjoy when the going is good. It's the trusting in the other person that they will do the same. It's the biggest leap of faith I think any human can take. Now, Esther Perel, who's one of my favorite humans to listen to about relationships and also happens to be a psychotherapist, says that the quality of our relationships determines the quality of our lives. What I find interesting about people in today's dating world is that they want someone to tick their boxes rather than exploring the inner world of another potential counterpart. Yes, you want your significant other to tick boxes. For example, can they wash their own clothes, or do they know how to be a basic human being, a basic adult? Do they know right from wrong? But often the more important stuff is overlooked, like what can this person teach me that I don't already know? Can this person hear all the dark parts of me and still look at me with love and admiration? Can this person support me and allow me to support them? Can this person handle their finances? Can this person communicate when they need something? Or can they read social cues when needed? Are they open to learning more about themselves as well as about me? And can they handle change? Can they admit when they need help? Can they navigate conflict? And if not, can they admit to that and learn with me? So, my husband has taught me so much and continues to teach me. I do the same for him. I love being a student in his world, and I love when I get to show him something new. We show off in front of each other quite often. Whenever we get to see each other in the professional sense, or with something new that we learned as individuals, or when cooking, we love to show off in front of each other and impress each other. I love seeing his strengths and let him know that I accept his weaknesses as he does for me. Modern day dating is scary. It's unfathomable for me and quite frankly needs a little TLC. Or actually, no, it needs a lot of TLC. I communicate to him nowadays of when I see flaws in myself, and I'm always working on them. So if I'm triggered by something, I tend to let him know, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, the Uber was late, or something happened in my day and I couldn't process, or I got frozen, or, I get triggered by all sorts of things. And I do notice why I get triggered because of certain things that happened in my upbringing. And I think it's vital to know your triggers and see your triggers and understand them and figure them out so that you can actually verbalize it. And once you can notice and verbalize, you can then form a healthy relationship with yourself to say, okay, that's not who I am. That's not how I want to show up in the world. And that's not nearly closest to how I want my relationship to go. So I definitely communicate to him nowadays of when I see flaws in myself and that I'm working on them. I've learned to say sorry, not often yet, but we're getting there. I used to weaponize a lot, and I realized where that learned skill came from. So I now verbalize it all to him, or as much as I can, without drowning both of us in the healing process. And that, it can be such murky waters, but it's definitely worth a try. We are by no means immune to challenges, nor are we the same people we were when we first united. But what has stood us in good stead is understanding that each of us change as the seasons do, and we welcome that change. We adapt to each other's growth and changes, and we move accordingly. Now, whether you are in a relationship that's not yet as committed as a marriage, or you are already in a committed marriage, understanding that the best day of your life is not your wedding day, but it is the day where you both are wiping blood, sweat, and tears away, and doing so when you are hand in hand. That is when you can truly say you are in a successful partnership with a shared purpose. Now, some of the challenges in growth areas can look like communication barriers. It can look like unmet needs or unmet expectations, and even, and most likely, more often than not, external pressures. It's important to discuss these things and even test the conversation with a potential partner. Merely by approaching this subject with them prior to the commitment could light the way of how to move forward with this person or not. Things to discuss to see if this is a suitable match are the importance of aligning values and goals. Discussing with them on what their strategies for navigating conflict are. You can then gauge this by seeing if they have empathy and respect. Now, something that I have found, which I deal with a lot of women in my field or in my expertise, and when we talk about relationships, I often come across the topic of losing your individuality while being part of a couple. So, how can you avoid this? Now, avoiding it is to make sure that you still both are regularly tapping into your interests, like what sparks joy. I love dancing. I have always loved dancing. My husband does not. But I tend to still go to the odd dance class here and there. But I'm not going to be forcing him to go to every single dance class, nor does he force me to watch every single football match, because those are what keeps us individual. He's into his sport, I'm into dance. But it is important that you need to claim your individuality, stick to your individuality, and in so you will not lose it. It's important to recognize your partner's individuality, their interests, what they love, their style, and try your best not to change that, because those are the parts of them that made you fall in love in the first place. And one of my main topics when coaching clients through their concerns around their intimate relationship is how they nurture the connection and intimacy. I find that a lot of people or couples live very separate lives, and then they find that their relationship feels like it's lacking something or that they're drifting apart. So, a few actionable tips I tend to recommend that perhaps you can jot down is building rituals of connection. So, weekly check ins. I often hear people have date nights. It doesn't necessarily have to be a date night, but just check in while you're sitting over a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or doing the dishes together. Maybe you want to go and hang out the washing together. Or while one's washing up, the other's prepping lunch for the next day. Create connection through ritual. Do things together around the house. Maybe have a shared hobby. Currently, my husband and I have taken up tennis together. It doesn't have to be a sport, it could be anything. Cultivate gratitude. This is a big, big one for me, because cultivating gratitude and appreciation for your partner daily is so simple, but it goes such a long way. So you can tell them thank you for all the little things. Thank you for making me coffee, or for doing the dishes, or taking the kids to school. Remember, I said this is not really around children, but you could do the small thank yous. Thank you for opening the door. Thank you for washing the car. Thank you for putting my clothes back. But also foster playfulness and creativity in your relationship. It doesn't have to always be so serious. Take the mickey out of each other. That means to say, make jokes of each other. And how you could know that you have a great partnership is when you can both recognize that there are cycles that may need breaking, and that there may be healing that needs to be done together, and that you are both willing to do that healing together. Remaining open-minded. We often come into relationships with preconceived notions of what things should look like, where they should be, and how they should play out. But I've been lucky enough to be granted a man that has an open mind and has taught me to remain open. Yes, we do have our preconceived notions, and this is normal, but we often try to keep each other completely open minded. We are, after all, expats. We decided to pack up our household and move across the world. And just by doing that allows you to remain open. I'm not saying pack your life up and move across the world, but when you go through a life altering circumstance, it does tend to allow you and your partner to shift and shape accordingly. So, I'd love to discuss how partnerships can be a space for healing generational trauma and personal wounds. I'm an avid believer that you can break generational trauma. I'm definitely one that's working on that, trying to heal my personal wounds. It does mean that you will have to find a partner that is healthy enough to walk that journey with you, to see your crazy parts and really just understand who you are at the core of a human being. I definitely want to break generational cycles. I want, if I have children one day, if I'm blessed, I want my children to know that they have two healthy parents, that are two adults, and that we will never push on them beliefs that they don't feel are right for them. Remember that when you are a parent, and I know I have said that this is not based on parents, but I'm coming from a perspective of a want to be parent. I would love one day, and maybe parents will laugh at me for this outlandish desire, but I would love one day to sit with my child and say, hey, mom and dad believe the following, or mom believes the following. You don't necessarily have to believe the same. I want you to go out in the world and make up your mind for yourself. I'm going to give you a couple of tools that I think work, but if you find a better way of doing it, feel free to test it, because mom doesn't always know everything, but I will show what I do know, and I hope that that will be enough. Now, examples of growth is where you share examples of couples who have overcome struggles through commitment to mutual growth and vulnerability. And if you're listening to this and you're in your relationship, I want to inspire you to try and view your challenges as opportunities with your partner for deeper understanding and resilience. You will get closer to your partner by merely viewing a challenge as an opportunity for growth to come together. I'd love you to reflect and possibly engage with me on these questions. How do you and your partner support each other's personal growth? What's one way you show love that's unique to your relationship? And how have past experiences shaped the way you view love and partnership? I really want to invite you to try and reflect on those, maybe journal about them, and take it further. Discuss these questions with your partner. I want to reiterate the importance of intentionally showing up in your partnership, because your partner will be a mirror to you, a mirror of your self-growth or lack thereof. And I want to leave you with a hopeful note that partnerships aren't about perfection, but about shared journeys. I hope you fall in love, you stay in love, and you spread some love. Thank you to all our listeners, and remember to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Instagram to get alerts of our new episodes. Leave a review and a comment, rate us, and send us messages on what you would like to hear on the podcast. And here is to your health.